Welcome back to another episode of the St. Louis Podcast. I'm Eric Brown, host. We're gonna get into it again this week. Last week, it seems like everyone loved my hot takes. We had great viewership. I don't know what the hell happened on YouTube last week, but I appreciate the support. We're reaching almost 500 views, which I know it's not a lot, but we're grateful on YouTube. That's a good amount for us, so I'm happy with it. Last week, it was kind of doom and gloom. Right? I talked about credit card deficit. I talked about how we have a spending problem. I talked about how 2025 is probably going to hurt a lot of us, both business owners and just consumers and normal people in general. And it seems like I'm not the only one with this sentiment. Now, the first thing I want to talk about today is this guy named Pierre in Canada. Now, normally, of course, being in the United States, right? Canadians pay attention to us. We don't pay attention to them, nor really pay attention to anyone else. But that's America, right? That's America for you. Now, as many of you probably have heard recently, Justin Trudeau stepped down. And now we have this man named Pierre. I forget his last name. I could probably look it up, but whatever. You can look it up. Pierre. And he is coming out as essentially, I guess, a populist, if you would. And he is fighting against everything that I have been talking about political-wise for a long time here on this podcast, which is exactly what I talked about last week. The government spending too much money, inflation, printing dollars, and in turn, it's hurting the average person, right? Sure, maybe it doesn't hurt the 1%. Maybe even the top 10%, but it is hurting the large majority of the people in the United States. And the same exact thing has been happening in Canada, but even worse. I heard that in 10 years, now this is Pierre, and I'm probably butchering exactly what he said. He said that essentially in 10 years, they've printed 3 times their money supply that they had 10 years ago. Obviously, you could see the problem with that. Your dollar is now worth essentially a third of what it was before. And they continue to print money. They continue to spend more money. Our government and Canada's government continues to spend more and more money. And now we finally have people coming out of the woodwork that represent, or at least seem to represent, the average person, which is spending's out of control. Nothing is affordable. You keep printing money, and the only people that really benefits is the rich. And therefore, you're alienating more and more people on a daily basis from living what really the U.S. and apparently Canada's dream is too, which is if you work hard, you will have a good life. And we could see that it's harder every day to say that is the case moving forward for the average person, especially younger, in the United States and in Canada. Shit is not affordable. People being able, I've talked about this extensively on this podcast, people my age being able to buy a house, it's like, what? It doesn't even make sense. You add up all the costs, you add up how expensive it is, and then you still have old heads saying, well, look at the interest rate compared to, the 70s or 80s. I don't care. Look at the home costs. And there's a big divide. There is a large divide, and something needs to happen. And it seems like it's slowly starting to happen in Canada. The U.S. really needs to come around to this sentiment as well. But it seems like the average person doesn't have any self-control. So if the average person does not have any self-control with their spending, why would they expect that out of their government? Right? If you don't live by it, why would you expect someone else to live by it that's representing you? To represent you differently? And obviously that's a poor excuse, but realistically, why should they? If you don't live your life like that, why should the U.S. run the economy, or run their budget like that? It's absolutely insane. So I would, I'm curious everyone's thoughts on this Pierre guy. I just watched some videos of him talking yesterday. He seems like a intelligent guy that, for the most part, is representing the average person, which I can't say that about any politician. I mean, any time recently, besides maybe Bernie, but we all know what happened in, 2016 or 2012? 2016, I think. But, who even says Bernie's principles are good for all the people either? So it's hard to say, but at least I could say it feels like Bernie gives a shit. And that's why people like him. It also feels like people care about this Pierre guy. And it seems like he cares as well. It's very easy to be attracted to a politician that gives off vibes of them actually caring about their electorate and who put them there, instead of lining their own pockets, which a majority of the people in the U.S. government do on a daily basis, which is insane. They should not be in it for their own good, right? And if they are, shouldn't be in politics. But obviously, you can make a lot of money and get a lot of power by being a politician. So this year, I'm curious how this really plays out. I think we're slowly starting to see a transition from us continuing to put up with the bullshit, right? At the end of the day, I mean, it's almost coming back to the fact of no taxation without representation, right? It doesn't seem like our tax dollars, and apparently Canada's as well, is going to the right spots. It is also being spent appropriately. And that should be fixed. I mean, plain and simple, it should be fixed. It's our money that we are giving over to them at the end of the day. Why do we not have a say in where it goes? I don't understand why we've never had a say really in fiscal policy to begin with. It's very interesting, considering, okay, last week I had a very small amount of people watch the podcast on YouTube. Like I said, we're about to approach 500. Let's just say 10 grand a person paid in taxes last year, which I'm sure that number's low. Okay, well, there's 5 million right there. Did I do that math right? 500, 10,000. It's a long day. Whatever, do the math. I'm usually very good at math. I'm a little tired though now. Anyways, you get the point. There's a lot of money being given to the government and handed over to even local electorates as well. And talking about local electorates, let's talk about MoDOT and them being absolute dog shit. MoDOT. You knew this storm was coming for like 5 days. I didn't see any pre-treatment. It started coming in Friday night. Saturday was hell because it was obviously storming the whole day. It stopped Sunday morning essentially. Sunday was hell. Today's Thursday, by the way. I'm recording this. Monday was hell. I mean, we worked from home up until today, and even today, I go out and even on the highways off of main arteries like Manchester and 141, you still have super sketchy spots. You also had a guy on 270 North as I was going to work this morning. 270 North, right past Olive. The passing lane is a sheet of ice. And I was there just a couple minutes after this guy happened, but obviously he hit that sheet of ice because really you don't notice it until you're literally on top of it. And he obviously went across the highway, went up and over the side median and was like sitting on top of it like you were 50-50 grinding a skateboard. And I was like, this is insane. And now today I see more MoDOT trucks than I've seen out the entire past week since it's been storming. MoDOT is blaming it on not having enough workers. I also saw them blame it on the fact that a lot of their workers now are newer, apparently, and a lot of the older people are not working at MoDOT anymore, and I guess a lot of the younger people don't know how to drive in snow. So therefore, the same amount of people that would work at MoDOT and the crews are now slower because of the older generation getting out, which is interesting. So that means there has to be an issue with training, with the experience. I mean, I don't understand how that's the case. I also don't understand how you can just blame it on being new. It's like obviously that they're not going to be able to work as fast as someone who has been driving this thing for 10, 15, 20 years. Of course that makes sense. They just find any excuse, it seems like, for them not to do their job. I mean, roads are still terrible. It's Thursday. It hasn't snowed since Sunday morning. We haven't gotten any precipitation since then. Sure, it's been freezing, but it's been ridiculous. And, I've seen people It doesn't even matter where you're at. Even if you're out in St. Charles, if you're out in Wentzville, if you're out in O'Fallon, you're out in Wildwood, it doesn't even matter. Even the municipalities themselves didn't do a great job depending on where you're at. And I mean, it just going back to taxes, where are they going? Where are they going? Because we should have plenty of money to treat a storm that we get like once or twice a year in St. Louis. It's completely ridiculous that we have to be essentially shut down for like 5 days because St. Louis can't get their act together and clean up the damn streets. Whereas you have, okay, sure, we're not as prepared as, cities that get snow all the time, but the amount of just the unpreparedness and the slow cleanup is insane. And I don't understand it. Okay, hire more people. Get more people on staff. It doesn't make any sense. We pay enough in taxes that we shouldn't have to sit at home for days on end because the roads are such shit. And we also shouldn't have to go out and buy snow tires and have an all-wheel drive car with brand new tires to be able to get around. That's also not feasible. Right? So MoDOT sucks. Still. When does that change? Have they ever done good in a storm? I feel like it's the same. It's the same thing. It's like, we'll do better, and then they do worse. It's insane. It'd be funny to have like a podcast where you just go undercover in companies. Eventually, I guess you wouldn't be able to do that because they'd be like, yeah, this is the Eric Brown that goes undercover. But you have to create like a false identity, a whole false report, fake, steal someone's social security number. God knows you can probably just buy those on some bullshit website. I've been getting spam calls like crazy the last few weeks. I don't know who sold my data, but I hate you for it. I need to buy one of those programs you pay that goes ahead and tries to find them and remove it. But I'm like, it's already out there, isn't it? What's the point? Let's talk about the Malibu fires, should we? The Palisades. Did you see that? That was insane. So I love all the conspiracies behind it. But the plain fact of the matter is, piss poor management. The firefighters were there and they couldn't do anything. They had no water. They also didn't have any water in the Eaton fire, which is still burning. I believe the Eaton and Palisades fire are still at 0% containment. I'm a nerd when it comes to like watching this fire stuff because I love the Pacific Coast Highway. Not so much Los Angeles, but that part, Malibu up to like Monterey. I mean, it's a beautiful area. And seeing, okay, sure, a lot of the people that got affected have money. But there's also a lot of people in the Malibu area that have lived there forever that don't have a lot of money, and in the Palisades area. And you also have a ton of businesses that got destroyed. And I guarantee a lot of those small businesses that are right there on the PCH, the Real Inn, there's some other names that I've been to and I was there as well. Those owners are not rich, right? They own a restaurant, more likely than not, just a small hole in the wall off the side of the PCH. More likely than not, those people are not rich. Their lives are now essentially ruined, or they're going to be hell for the inevitable future. And the piss poor management of not only, it seemed like the response wasn't really there either. I mean, they had National Weather Service said that there was going to be high winds. They have like a 0.5 humidity or something like that, which means you can essentially just take a match, throw it on the ground, and start a fire. And then they had high winds. And I think they've had like a half inch of rain in like the last 8 months or something. It's a tinderbox waiting to happen. And really my two questions are this. Number one, the management of the Forestry Service themselves, burning brush, trying to contain these fires. Because across the board, it seems like the old practice of, not even old practice, is still done in areas depending on where you're at. And actually, you can listen to, there's a few people from like Denmark and stuff that lead their forestry department that was talking about this. They're like, one of the biggest reasons this happened was, of course, weather factors. Was it the reason it got so big was because of them simply not clearing out brush and things like that. And the other thing is, where was the water? Where was the water? They're right next to an ocean. I also heard that there was sections. I also heard that Canada doesn't let some water flow and sends it out the Pacific to the United States because of one species of fish or something like that. Well, I also heard about, and I didn't know about this, but people love and hate Joe Rogan, and I don't listen to him a lot, but sometimes depending on who he has on, I'll listen to at least like the clips and stuff they talk about. But Trump and him were talking about a massive lake that Southern California had that they drained in the 80s, and they let it go to the Pacific. And I'm like, I don't understand this. I don't understand this water thing, because water is about to be the number one commodity that we don't have. Because we let Nestle and all these corporations just straight buy it up for absolutely nothing. And we don't, our water supply is out of control in the West. It's a serious issue. And I think I've actually talked about that at the beginning of last year on the podcast. But yeah, piss poor mismanagement. You had water that, also in Eaton up in Pasadena, they had the same problem, low water pressure. They weren't able to get water upgrade, up elevation, sorry. And it's a shit show. And sure, people don't feel as bad because again, there are people affected that, just like you and me, but there's also a lot of rich people affected. But it still affects, guess what, our insurance rate. And I think we're going to, insurance, I talked about that on the last episode. Insurance is absolutely through the roof in most areas, even here in St. Louis, where it's like, what do we get besides like damaging winds and storms, I guess. It's just crazy. And of course, those insurance companies are going to subsidize that, will spread actually risk through everyone that, pays as part of that insurance company. So if you have Farmers Insurance, and Farmers Insurance has a bunch of policies out in, California where this just happened, well, guess what? More likely than not, rates are going to increase. Not because of you, but because of something that happened in California. And we really have to start to question ourselves. This is the last thing. Are we inhabiting areas that are you're just going to have to self-insure and hope it doesn't catch on fire? And hope that, incoming storms from the beach, that you don't get flooded out, that you're not too close to the ocean? Are we just going to stop insuring these properties so that way it doesn't cost people money that didn't choose to live there? That's kind of my third question. But most importantly is like, what the hell happened? You cut spending, I think it was like 20 million or 18 million or 28 million, something like that, spending to the LA Fire Department. And of course, the reason they're cutting budget is because I believe LA is in a deficit, as well as, of course, the state of California, even though I believe they generate the most, by far the most tax revenue by state. So again, we're talking about another mismanagement of not only state, but local officials. And of course, you have the mayor and whatever. I found it interesting that, Cruz was gone during the freeze last year in Texas. Now we got this thing going on. The mayor of LA is gone. It always seems nice timing for these people to not be there to have to figure out how to solve this problem. And we're all going to pay for it. We're all going to pay for it. And it sucks because that's a really beautiful area there as well. Was.
Hey there, St. Louis podcast listeners. We've got some exciting news from our friends over at Farmers Insurance of St. Louis, led by the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Lee of Farmers Insurance.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for a job or to own your own business under a brand that everyone and their cousin is familiar with, Mark Lee with Farmers Insurance of St. Louis is recruiting insurance agency owners here in St. Louis for their Farmers Insurance Mentorship Program.
And as many of you are aware, Garrett and I have owned quite a few successful and award-winning businesses over the years. And in a past life, one of those was a farmer's insurance agency out of Chesterfield, Missouri.
Eric and I know firsthand how hard it is to start a business under a brand that no one has heard of and convince consumers and businesses to trust that you're an authority figure in your industry.
And as many of you know, we own an award-winning marketing firm, Vi Media, the one that Garrett was just discussing. And building that company's reputation literally took years. We're still building it to this day, and it's been 8 years in the making. However, with the Trusted Farmers Insurance Agency name on the building, we got started when we started our farmers insurance agency. The trust was already built and has been for 96 years.
And if you can't do math, that means Farmers Insurance has been around since 1928. Luckily, you don't need to be a human calculator to get rich as an owner of your very own Farmers Insurance Agency.
Nope. All you have to do is reach out to the one and only Mark Lee, the leader of Farmers Insurance in the greater St. Louis metropolitan area.
That's right. So ensure he continues to sponsor our show and your favorite podcast, the St. Louis Podcast, by quitting your job today and calling Mark Lee. I wouldn't even wait for him to answer your call. Call your boss now, quit, and become your very own business owner.
Visit insurancecareerstl.com. That is insurancecareerstl.com. Should we spell it out?
Yes. It would
INSURANCE, career, CAREER, STL.com, insurancecareerstl.com. Go there now. Back to the podcast.
And wait, insurancecareerstl.com.
Back to the podcast. I remember the first time I went there, I stayed in a massive Malibu house, this person's guest house, and it was up in the hills. It was in, I think it was Malibu Canyon Drive. So it didn't get affected by this fire, but it did get affected by the fire that went through Malibu about 3 or 4 years. I think in 2020, because I was there, I believe it might have been 2019. No, it was actually before that. The fires were in like 2019 or 2018 because I went back in 2019 and went up there in this beautiful house. I mean, the only thing left was the foundation and literally the tie rods. That's all that was left. It's crazy. I was like, the memories. It's sad. It's sad. And now you have stories like you type in on Twitter, you type in like Malibu fire, and then you have stories about the celebrities that lost your homes. I don't give a shit about them. That's a fact. Paris Hilton lost her house. Don't care. How many does she have? And then you had the live reporters like getting in people's way as they were trying to get out. I'm like, media news, like legacy news is dead. Like you guys are clueless. I forgot the one lady where they were like, she was like taking her horses and she was trying to interview her as she was running with her horses. So get out of the damn way. How about you be helpful and mic up instead of holding that stupid mic and getting in everyone's way? Some of the videos were crazy, though, from that. There was people, like, in their house, like, leaving as the fire was at their door. Absolutely devastating. And then we have that. Do we have anything good happen since the new year? Has there anything good happened? Like, we had a decent week of football last weekend. I mean, we had some good football last weekend. Other than that, we got terrorist attacks coming back. Let's talk about that. Okay. Call me a conspiracy theorist. The FBI did New Orleans. I'm calling it right now. The FBI, CIA, some NSA, some three-letter organization probably did New Orleans. Like, they're trying to bring back us hating terrorists and Muslims, dude. They're on the attack. And of course, both of these guys also the guy that blew up the Tesla in front of Trump Tower, both military guys, both from Fort Bragg. There was, of course, that famous shooting at Fort Bragg, right? Like a couple years ago where the vet or the active military guy shot other people on the base. They are known to, they have the PSYOP division there for Hold on.
You think they're out here experimenting on them or some shit?
I mean, I'm not going to say this is the MK Ultra, but if you look back, the Salt Lake City bomber, MK Ultra, like look back, he was like visiting with FBI. Charles Manson, look it up. They're becoming more and more apparent. All right, so it's the 4th Psychological Operations Group, the PSYOP Detachment, Masters of Influence, Experts in Deception. They are based at Fort Bragg. Now, keep in mind, I probably have no idea what I'm talking about. Don't take a word, do your own research. I'm not an expert. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I'm not suicidal. Did you see they kicked the reporter went to the person's house like a day after the guy's New Orleans guy house? A day, like the reporter walked into his house the day after. I was like, okay, this is obviously fake. You're telling me they concluded their investigation at this dude's house in New Orleans in less than 24 hours? And then you just had some... It looked like she was doing like a YouTube bullshit, like just, oh my God, here's his desk, here's his workstation, here's his chemicals. I'm like, I know, but do you think they just let a reporter walk in there right afterwards the next day? Oh, I'm sure we're done. They wouldn't let a reporter in. Yeah, oh yeah, all the bomb parts are still there. They didn't take them in. Yeah, exactly. This is so fucking, that's like in your face stupid. Like, I don't want to believe it's a conspiracy. I want to believe it's just a crazy piece of shit that killed these people. But at least, like, I don't know. If you're going to do that, just kill yourself, dude. Why you got to take out, on New Year's, you're taking out people like younger people. You're taking out people like our age, like 30 and 20-year-olds that are having a good time. In New Orleans on New Year's, and you do that. Like, you're such a piece of shit. But shout out FBI for another good psyop. This is another black flag. Yeah, so we got a lot to work on in this country. And I think it starts by working on yourself. And I think I talked about that a couple weeks ago too. I said the hardest thing to do in life is to work on yourself, is to stare yourself in the face and to realize that I am not doing this or I'm fucking up here, and actually take action and change that. It's literally the hardest thing you can do in your life. Say you are overweight and are eating bad. Probably the hardest thing for you to do in your life is to look yourself in the face, in the mirror, and say, maybe I should start walking 10,000 steps a day and eating healthier. And then actually doing that. That's the hardest thing to do. Work on yourself. Literally is.
I will die before I eat fruits and vegetables. That's all I'm saying.
I like fruits. Vegetables, I'm still like, they're fine. Carrots and some things, they're all right. But fruits are good. I'll eat steak and fruit all day long. Give me some steak, some strawberries, some blueberries. I'm having a meal, some grapes. Oof. I'm having a good. How long are we at?
26 minutes.
Well, we got some more stuff. We're only at 26 minutes. What else happened? What else do I want to rant about?
Yeah, all the Trump stuff came out.
What Trump stuff? What do we got?
That's him making the threat, the Gulf of America.
Oh, yeah, Greenland trying to take over Canada. I mean, based on what I just said at the beginning of this video about Canada, maybe we don't want Canada. Because as bad off as the United States is, Canada is worse off. He was saying like they have like 70% of the buying power of the US or something like that. So if you make 50 grand here and 50 grand there, you're essentially only making it only goes as far as like 70% of where it would go in the United States, which is crazy because it's not affordable here. And apparently Canada is more homeless than the US per capita, per person. They were like, Halifax has like 15 homeless shelters. I'm like, oh my God. Does New York even have 15 homeless shelters for all these asylum seekers? There's something I'm curious about what's going to happen here next month. Is Trump actually going to start deporting these people? We'll see. Can we just start with like the actual criminals and like shitheads that shouldn't be here? Have you guys heard about this? House of Representative votes to not kick out full list of 158 Democrats who voted against sex crime ban on immigrants. What? What? More than 150 Democrats. This is old news. September. This is September. I never heard of this. Is crazy. 150. Well, we got to read what it actually says because this bill could be a hawk of shit. But 150 Democrats voted against Republican Representative Nancy. It's probably because it was a Republican bill that would ensure undocumented immigrants convicted of sex offenses are deported or deemed inadmissible to the country. How can anyone argue against that? Sound off in the comments. Who's for keeping these people here? Because I will pin you at the pin of shame. The bill would also deport or deem inadmissible, to the country undocumented immigrants. Okay, if you're an undocumented immigrant, you just shouldn't be here anyways, but have been convicted of or admit to having committed sex offenses, domestic violence, stalking, child abuse, or violating a protection order. Trump should have used this. Like all of the Republicans should have used this for the November election. I didn't even hear anything about this.
Musk is saying it because Musk made the tweet like 4 or 5 days ago.
Oh, he's bringing it back to light?
Yeah, that's why I heard about it. I sure as shit did in September.
Here we go again, debating another partisan bill that fear-mongers about immigrants instead of working together to fix the immigration system. Who is this? Pramali Jayapal. Oh, is she the... God, she's born in India. Okay. How about you go back and fix your own country? When did she move here? It's so annoying. All right, then what's your plan to fucking fix the immigration system? Instead of just saying, why don't we focus on fixing the immigration system? She was formerly married to Alan Preston. Who's that? Who's that? Alan Preston. I don't know. Oh, she's in Seattle. Pff, that makes sense. Wait, is her child is transgender and non-binary? In 2019, she publicly wrote that she had chosen to abort a pregnancy because it risked her and her unborn child's health. Okay, well, I guess I can't fault her for that. Doesn't say, like, she became a U.S. citizen in 2000. How old is she? Who cares? You know what? Just off of this one comment and you voting against this, fuck off. She said the bill would hurt survivors of domestic violence whom she said are often arrested, charged, and convicted alongside their abusers. What? Isn't that like gaslighting? I hate that word, but isn't that straight up gaslighting like the victims? Sounds like she needs a man to abuse her. I'm just kidding. Maybe or maybe she had it in the past. She's like, it's not that bad. Deal with it, women. Dumb. How does this, I cannot make it. Usually I'm good at being like, okay, well, I could see I don't. That's insane. That's insane. I thought she was part of like that group of, there's like the 10 groups of like super far left. I forget what their group name is or what they called themselves or what. She immigrated here at age 16.
Oh, she is actually 40 then. That's funny.
She's 59. So she's been here for a while. She wasn't a citizen for a while.
Oh, she knows all about the end.
After graduating, Payne Weber. Oh, MBA, Northwestern. Seems smart, but here we go. She is a Seattle-based civil rights activist serving until 2012 as the executive director of One America, a pro-immigrant advocacy group. What is One America? We are One America. Immigrant power, collective change. Or are these the people that were marching in New York and in the Bronx, or was it Manhattan a couple weeks ago? Because New York is trying to not deal with all the illegal immigrants there and the asylum crisis, and all of these people are. I mean, it is crazy that just nothing wrong with legal immigration, right? Obviously. I don't know. That's crazy. Well, if that doesn't make you want to vote Republican, Jesus. That just goes to show that those people are literally, you don't care about the average person. You're only there for whatever bullshit agenda you are pushing. Because otherwise, it should be 100% should be like, we don't want, literally, how about we just send any raptist out of the U.S.? Send them to Canada. No, we used to send them to Australia back in the day, remember? Send them to like Antarctica or some shit. Yeah, just be like, here you go. Here's some survival equipment. Good luck. I mean, I said the world's falling apart. I mean, it's not getting much better. I don't know. We'll see what changes happen this year. All I know is you can be the individual change for you and for the people that you know in your community. That is what I know. And I would just do what you can for the people that you know, your friends, your family, acquaintances, people in your local area, local businesses. And at the end of the day, hopefully this shit figures itself out. Because I'd like to be in America for the next, 40, 50 years here. That doesn't suck when I die. And it seems like we're going in the wrong direction. So if we could collectively suck less, that would be great. And that's my advice for today. Thank you for watching the St. Louis podcast. Please like, review, subscribe as always. Leave a comment, share it with someone. We appreciate everyone's support. If you think that you'd be a good guest, send me a message. Send me a message. That's all I'll say. Thank you. See you next week.
Hey there, St. Louis podcast listeners. We've got some exciting news from our friends over at Farmers Insurance of St. Louis, led by the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Lee of Farmers Insurance.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for a job or to own your own business under a brand that everyone and their cousin is familiar with, Mark Lee with Farmers Insurance of St. Louis is recruiting insurance agency owners here in St. Louis for their Farmers Insurance Mentorship Program.
And as many of you are aware, Garrett and I have owned quite a few successful and award-winning businesses over the years. And in a past life, one of those was a farmer's insurance agency out of Chesterfield, Missouri.
Eric and I know firsthand how hard it is to start a business under a brand that no one has heard of and convince consumers and businesses to trust that you're an authority figure in your industry.
And as many of you know, we own an award-winning marketing firm, Via Media, the one that Garrett was just discussing. And building that company's reputation literally took years. We're still building it to this day, and it's been 8 years in the making. However, with the Trusted Farmers Insurance Agency name on the building, we got started when we started our Farmers Insurance Agency. The trust was already built and has been for 96 years.
And if you can't do math, that means Farmers Insurance has been around since 1928. Luckily, you don't need to be a human calculator to get rich as an owner of your very own Farmers Insurance Agency.
Nope. All you have to do is reach out to the one and only Mark Lee, the leader of Farmers Insurance in the greater St. Louis metropolitan area.
That's right. So ensure he continues to sponsor our show and your favorite podcast, the St. Louis Podcast, by quitting your job today and calling Mark Lee. I wouldn't even wait for him to answer your call. Call your boss now, quit, and become your very own business owner.
Visit insurancecareerstl.com. That is insurancecareerstl.com. Should we spell it out?
Yes. It would
INSURANCE, career, CAREER, STL.com, insurancecareerstl.com. Go there now.